It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Morocco. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go! Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Morocco's players. Morocco is still on a high from their fourth place finish in the World Cup, and we want to make the most of hosting this tournament. They seem very strong. This is our fourth time covering Morocco. We have previous mediacast for the 2021 and 2023 African Cups, as well as the 2022 World Cup. So just a note on where we're at in our mediacast. Last summer, we previewed the groups, teams, and players for the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. And we also did a mediacast introducing ourselves. That covered some of the priorities and quirks of what we do. Also, it has a team quiz, which is still alive. Winners will get a mention on the mediacast covering the team of their choice. After this African Cup, we're going to start tackling the massive 48-team World Cup in the summer of 2026. So stay tuned for previews of that starting in the springtime of 2026. Now, we're doing this mediacast in two parts. So part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and we categorize them into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, or seemingly off the squad. So that's their likelihood of making the squad I'm talking about. We'll go into more details on the players we think likely to reach the final squad. And sorry, I lost my voice a bit there. And a bit less, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. Part two is going to come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, probably in early to mid-December there. At that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll cover things like injuries and surprise selections. And we'll also predict our starters in part two. So this episode here has three sections. Section one, we're going to look at some general information on the team. In section two, we cover the main candidates in each position. And section three, we will summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. All right, let's begin. Oh, before I do, I should explain why I'm wearing a Wales shirt, not a Morocco shirt. Well, the main reason is because I don't have a Morocco shirt. Wales has pretty much the same colors, and I was born in Wales, so I'm stealing the opportunity to do that. All right, let's move on to section one, and we'll begin with some comments on the squad, with some big names who are no longer on the squad. So maybe the biggest name is Roman Saiz. He is last appeared in June of 2024, and we may say more about it when we get to his position in part two. He's a central defender. Next is attacking midfielder Salim Amala. He has 37 caps for the team, so not nearly as much a veteran as Roman Saiz, but last appeared in the African Cup in January 2024. Next, left attacking midfielder Sofiane Boufal seems to be off the team. He last appeared in the African Cup as well, so January 2024. And perhaps a surprise, Hakim Ziyech is the last big name off the squad, last appearing in September of 2024. So losing some players there, but they will be bringing in some new players, as I'll mention in the next part. Club affiliations. Don't know why that's in grey, so I'm going to change it to black as a title. Club affiliations. Well, we don't want to go into too much detail on this. It's really just a summary that you can use to compare the teams. So Morocco has one of the strongest club affiliations of the national teams in Africa, with top or secondary clubs all over Europe and Saudi Arabia represented here. As strong as they've been over the past few years, I'm excited about some of the new attackers coming in from elite clubs. So we won't go into more detail than that, but as we go through and introduce the players, you can pay attention to the clubs that they're playing with. Okay, let's look at their recent games. For the participation that we kind of judge their likelihood by, we're using their last 18 games. That does not actually include the African Cup in 2023 or the 2024 African Cup. That's what I'm going to call it. Although they did play 4 games there, and that'll kind of be the starting point of the position narratives that we'll give after introducing players in the position. So really our participation count begins with the 2 friendlies after that cup in March of 2024. And then in June of 2024, they had 2 World Cup qualifying matches there. And where has it gone? Oh, that's 2025. Okay, so we go from there to the fall of 2024, where they play all 6 of their African Cup qualifying matches for this tournament. Of course, Morocco didn't really need to do that because they're hosts, but they did go through the qualification process just like everyone else. So 6 games there. We go to 2025 now, and in March of 2025, we have more World Cup qualifying games, 2 of them there. And this is the part I stumbled over last time. In June and July of 2025, they actually had 4 friendlies. We're only going to count the June ones because July is kind of off season, so we're not really sure if the top players are going to make it for games like that. Usually they're kind of experimental games, and there was a Club World Cup which some players may have been involved in. However, I was very surprised by how strong a team they put out in their July 2025 games. That was 2 games with Burkina Faso. Nevertheless, we're not really adding it to the count here, nor are we adding the 7 games of the African National Championship, which they won. That was in August of 2025, but that's more of I wouldn't say a local tournament, but local as far as Africa goes. You have to be playing for a team in Africa. But there were a couple of players that actually came out of that for Morocco. But we move on to the games that we are counting. World Cup qualifying matches in September and October. Morocco had just 3 of them because it doesn't matter. One of the teams had withdrawn from the tournament, so they didn't play that game. Finally, instead of then a World Cup qualifying game, they did play 1 friendly in October of 2025. And there are 18 games there that we're counting. And so we're going to look at the formations again, not in any great detail, but just to give you an idea of how they line up. I had put the title in the wrong place there. Okay, so formations. We have 1 formation that they use almost half of the time, a 4-2-3-1 formation. So that's 2 lines of midfielders, defensive and central, perhaps attacking midfield. No, it is defensive and attacking midfielders. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. That is 44% of the game, so a little less than half. In a third of the games, we have a 4-3-3 formation. And then in 1 of the games, a 4-4-2. And 3 of the games of 4-5-1. Sorry, I put things backwards there. So 3 games or 16% of 4-5-1, and then just 1 game with a 4-4-2. So that's it. And you can think of Morocco in, I would say, a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 formation. But let's look at some of the patterns from that information. And one thing we see clearly is it is always a 4-man back line or a two-man central defense. So unlike most teams, they never use, at least in this period, a three-man central defense. The other thing too is that in 94% of the games, so all but one, it has been a single forward. So really, for the most part, it's just the midfield changing there, and in fact, not even changing that much, because a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-5-1 are quite similar. So there we have it. And in there you see stability, and that's the name of the game for Morocco. They've been very stable over the past few years. So not many big changes for Morocco. Well, more than you might expect, though, for a team that's doing so well. Let's look at their upcoming games then. In friendly, it's in November, it is the playoffs for 6 of the African teams, but the rest of them have no duties, so are playing friendlies. Morocco has 2 of them scheduled, both of them taking place in Morocco, which has really become a hub of soccer. A lot of teams, if they can't play their home games at home, are playing them in Morocco. Lots of games being played in Morocco, including these 2. That's a friendly on November 14th against Mozambique, and on November 18th against Uganda. But Morocco also has the Arab Cup coming up in December, and we're not really sure if they're going to send the same team that they'll send to the African Cup. It seems kind of too close. This one is December 2nd to 8th are their group stage games, and then of course the finals will come after that. Meanwhile, the African Cup begins on December 21st, so they may use the same team or they may use a different team. Anyway, it's still undecided who they'll play in a couple of the games. In the first one, they will play either Yemen or Comoros. In the second one, it'll be either Oman or Somalia. And then in the third game, it will be Saudi Arabia. So those are December 2nd, 5th, and 8th. So a lot of upcoming games, and we'll be able to cover those games in part 2 of the media cast here. And hopefully that'll help us make predictions about the starting lineup, which is the business of part 2 rather than part 1 here. Let's move on to the main section of the media cast here and our look at the candidates and their likelihood of making it. So we begin with the manager, and I always dread this part because his name is very difficult to pronounce. It is Walid Regragui. And once again, I'm butchering it probably. If you don't mind, I'm going to call him Walid because I don't want to offend his family trying to say the name. He has been manager since 2000 and... Sorry, I'm just finding my place here. Since 2022, and he managed Wydad Casablanca, one of the bigger clubs in Morocco there before that, a couple of other clubs in Morocco. He was actually the assistant manager for the national team way back in 2012, and he also managed a club in Qatar in that period. He was a player as well, but didn't have any... 45 caps for Morocco between 2001 and 2009. He, like many of the players of Morocco, are born in France, and he actually was a starter in the 2024, the 2004 and 2006 African Cups. So there we go, Walid Regragui. I tried and failed again. Okay, let's talk about kind of a summary of his position over the period. Then he came into the position in 2022. As I said, it was August 2022, and actually that was after they had qualified for the World Cup. So he led them just through the tournament itself there to a glorious 4th place finish. Then he led them through qualifying for the 2023 African Cup. They finished first ahead of South Africa there. And in that cup, they won the group over Congo DR, but they were taken by surprise by South Africa in the round of 16 and knocked out much earlier than expected, given their success in the World Cup. In qualifying for this cup, despite not really needing to do well because they were hosts, they won all their games to finish first ahead of Gabon. And then in 2026 World Cup qualifying, they also won all of their games to finish first, fully 9 points ahead of Niger there. So they're on a real winning streak here and looking good coming into this cup. All right, we move to the first position, goalkeepers. And we'll introduce the candidates here. If their name is in black script, that means they have been through a tournament. If it's in grey, light grey, it means they haven't. And if it's in medium grey, it means they're kind of retired from the team. We won't see too many of those. First, we have a definite candidate in Yassine Bounou. We're proud of him because he was born in Canada. And another definite candidate in Munir Mohand or Munir Mohammed. I'll talk about his name because it's kind of funny when we come back to introduce him. No candidates at the likely level there, but two candidates at the possible level. That's Meni Benabid and El Mehdi Al Harar. Both of those possible candidates. And for the possible but unlikely or lower, we're going to introduce them kind of as we go, just a bit of information, but not much because they're unlikely. So Rashid Ghanimi is an unlikely candidate. He was on the bench for the National African Championship in August of 2025 there, but his first and only appearance for the senior team was on the bench in June of 2023. Next, we have Salaheddin Jibad, seemingly off the squad there, not selected after November of 2024. But these players do come into the narrative a little bit. And actually, I wonder if I was correct about Rashid Ghanimi, because I thought he was on the bench during this period. But we'll get there when we get to the summary of the position. Let's first introduce the candidates here. So Yassine Bounou, sometimes known as Bono, has been with Morocco since 2013 with 78 caps, and he is 33 years old. Bono plays for Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia and previously played for Sevilla in Spain. As I said, he was born in Montreal, Canada, so that's the kind of the French province of in Canada here. So that French connection there, as it is for most players. His first cup was the 2017 African Cup. He was just a backup keeper there, and in 2000 and also in the 2018 World Cup he was the backup keeper, but from the 2019 African Cup he was a starter and has been ever since, all the way through. And over this period he started 15 of their 18 games, so looks like he's retaining his starting position, but we'll talk about it in the summary. Next is Munir Mohand, and his name is a bit confusing actually. Sometimes he's known just as Munir, but I've also seen him referred to as just Mohammadi or else Munir Mohammadi. And recently my main source, my main website, has changed his name to Munir El Kajwi, and actually that's what was on the back of his shirt as far back as the 2022 World Cup. So I wonder if he's changed his name or just nobody's clear on his name. I'm going to keep calling him Munir Mohand, and I'll pay attention to what they call him in the cup here. Anyway, he has been with Morocco since 2015 with 50 caps, and he's now 36 years old, and he's playing back in Morocco since 2024 for Renaissance Berkane. He was in Saudi Arabia before that and with Hatayspor I'm not sure if he was there when there was an earthquake in Hatayspor in Turkey. Anyway, and before that, he was with clubs in Spain because actually Munir was born in Spain and had that background. He also, like Yassine Bounou, had his first African Cup tournament in 2017. In fact, he was a starting keeper both for that and for the World Cup in 2018. So actually, Bounou took over the starting position from him. But Munir has appeared in all the tournaments since as a backup keeper, I should say, as the backup keeper, because he's pretty consistently number 2 there. He did start 3 games, the 3 games that Bounou missed, so he is still number 2 there. And he was on the bench for all games that he didn't participate in. So a definite candidate, though not probably not the starter. Again, no likely candidates here, so we go to our first possible candidate. That is Mehdi Benabid. Doesn't have any caps for the national team, but is 27 years old, and he plays for Wydad Casablanca in Morocco, the same team we just mentioned. His whole club career has been in Morocco. Benabid was the third string keeper for the 2023 African Cup there, and despite starting no games, he was on the bench, but only for 8 games over the period, not selected for 10 matches, and that includes the last 4. So even though he was the third string keeper in the last African Cup, he may be losing that position. The second possible candidate here is El Madi El Harar, and he's been with Morocco since 2025. He has 7 caps for the national team. Those were earned in the he was a starting keeper in the African National Championship in August 2025, so kind of for the B team there. And El Harar is 25 years old. He also plays in Morocco. He's with Raja Casablanca since 2024. And yeah, so as I said, played in the African National Championship. In terms of the senior team, he was on the bench for the last 4 of their matches. So it may be that he is taking the third string keeper role from Benabid. But the story is actually a bit more complicated than that. And let's look at it as we're ready to go to the summary of the position. And we'll always begin with the African Cup in January 2024 here. Yassine Bounou started all 4 games in that cup and continued as a starter, as we saw, for 14 of the 17 games over the period we're looking at. He was injured for 1 and on the bench for 2, and Munir Mohan both came in to sub for him when he was injured and played the games where he wasn't there. So Munir Mohan, definitely the backup keeper here. The situation for third string keeper is a bit interesting. Mehdi Benabid was used in the cup, and I should say was on the bench in the cup, but he was called up, and also for the March and June 2024 games. However, he was not selected in the fall of 2024. In fact, no third keeper was brought to the first 3 games in the fall of 2022. In the fall of 2024, but 32-year-old Salaheddin Chibab, who we introduced as seemingly off the squad, joined the team for the last 3 games in the fall of 2024. He disappeared after that, and then Mehdi Benabid came in for the March and June 2025 games. However, he was then off the squad. El Mehdi El Harar, a keeper who, as we saw, got his start in the August 2025 National Championship, apparently did well enough to be called to the senior squad and then was the third string keeper for all 4 games at the end. So, yes, it does look like Al Harar is maybe a bit ahead of Benabid here, but we have Benabid ahead on the list because he was the third string keeper in the last cup. So until he's definitely replaced, we'll keep him there. Okay, let us go to defenders then. And we begin with central defenders. And the candidates, we'll name the candidates. The first one is Nayef Aguerd. And we have him as not a definite, but a likely candidate. We have no candidates at the definite level, but three at the likely level. The next one is Jawad Al Yamik. And then we have Adam Messina, who's actually a left back, but we moved him over here because this is where he's been playing over the period. So three likely candidates there. We have one at the possible level, Adel Abkar. And then we have two at the possible but unlikely level. The first one, Jamal Harkas. Jamal Harkas actually looked like he was making inroads when he played 4 games in a row as a central defender, but he hasn't been selected for the last 7 matches. So we have him as unlikely now. Chadi Riyad is the other possible but unlikely candidate, and he he has a very good club record, but we won't go into it. We'll say that he was on the roster for the 2023 African Cup. Didn't see any action there, but he last appeared for the team in June of 2024. So we'll introduce him in more detail if he's selected for the squad. But at this point, there's really no point in doing that. The next one is Yunus Abdelhamid, and he is seemingly off the squad. But he's been part of tournaments, the 2019 and 2023 African Cups, but was not selected since September of 2024. So Yunus Abdelhamid seemingly off the squad. Sorry, we have a couple of others, and I should have put their... Oh, no, I'm doing it as I put their names. Next, we have Ashraf Dari. Ashraf Dari replaced injured players in the 2022 World Cup, if you recall, but was not selected for the 2023 African Cup, although he did play after that. He last appeared in September of 2024. And on top of not playing for the squad for a while, he's an injury he has an injury tag on him, which we'll talk about at the end, but seemingly off the squad. And finally, we have the veteran Romain Saïss, seemingly off the squad. He was the captain of the team and with Morocco since 2012. And yes, we could go into great detail on him. He's been with the team ever since the 2017 African Cup, and a very important player for them all the way, but last appeared for the national team in June of 2024. So I just want to see his age to see if he could be called back. He is 35 years old, which is not too bad. I'm just looking at the candidates they have. They really have only 4 viable candidates at this point. Usually teams bring 5 or 6 to the Cup, so there is kind of room for a couple of more central defenders here, especially since, as we'll soon see, one of them has an injury cloud hanging over him. But we'll introduce the candidates here. Let's go back to the top and look at Nayef Aguerd. And he's been with Morocco since 2016 with 57 caps and 2 goals. He's 29 years old and plays for Marseille in France since 2025. He was with West Ham in England prior to that. And his first tournament was the 2021 African Cup, where he was a starter. I think it was basically from that time that him and Romain Saïss were the starting pair in the defence. That went through the 2022 World Cup and the last African Cup. And since that time, he has started 14 of their 18 games. However, a little bit of doubt towards the, I'm not finding the right word there, towards the end of the period. He started only 3 of the last 7 games, having started all games before that, so a little bit of shakiness at the end. One of these days I'll find a word after the after I finish this media cast and think, oh man, I should have said that. But anyway, I'm shakiness is what I go with right now. Okay, let's move on to the second likely central defender here, Jawad El Yamik. Jawad El Yamik has been with Morocco since 2016 with 29 caps and 3 goals. He's 33 years old and he's currently playing for Al Najma in Saudi Arabia and has actually been with a couple of clubs in Saudi Arabia after moving from Real Valladolid in Spain, who he played for until 2023. And a couple of Spanish and Italian clubs before that. His first tournament, despite being on the team since 2016, was the 2022 World Cup, where he was subbed into 2 games there and then gained a starting position for the last 3 games of the tournament. Jawad El Yamik was not, though, selected for the 2023 African Cup, just on the preliminary squad there, was off the team for a period, but he returned after a 16-month absence in March of 2025 and started 7 of their remaining 8 games. So there we have it, really coming on strong at the end. However, El Yamik has an injury doubt hanging over him, and we'll have to update or we'll give you full details on that in part 3. The third likely candidate is Adam Messina, and he is coded as a left back, but during this period he's moved to centre back. He's been with Morocco since 2021 with 23 caps and no goals, and Adam Messina is 31 years old, plays for Torino in Italy since 2024 and was with Udinese before that, part of that same owner as Watford in England. He played for Watford in England from 2018 to 2022. So those are kind of the same group of clubs there, Udinese and Watford. His first cup was the African Cup in 2021. He was actually a starter in those games, but he was a left back there, but was not selected for any of the 2 tournaments after that, actually injured for the World Cup in 2022, and then a bit of a surprising non-selection for the last African Cup. So he also came back after an even longer period than Jawad El Yamik. He came back after a 2.5-year absence in November of 2024, and he started 5 of their remaining 10 games there. Okay, the possible candidate is Abdel Akbar, and he has been with Morocco since 2024. It's really since 2023 because he was selected for the African Cup. No, wait, that was in 2024. Anyway, okay. Abdel Akbar has 3 caps and no goals, and he's 26 years old, so a bit of a late joiner. He plays for Getafe in Spain since 2025, and all of his clubs have been with Spain. I don't have a note here that he was Spanish born, though maybe I should make it clear with these players. Anyway, as I said, selected for the African Cup in January 2024 on the roster, but saw no action there, and in fact was only on the bench for game 3. Since then, though, he started 2 of their 18 games, but he wasn't selected for the last 4 matches. But we still have him as a possible candidate, largely because 4 central defenders is not enough. And, we think even maybe our possible but unlikely candidates may come back, or I would love to see Romain Saiss come back, although he kind of was struggling with injury quite a bit in the 2022 World Cup. Let's go to a summary of the position then. So, as expected, the pairing in the January 2024 African Cup was Romain Saiss and Naif Aguerd. Yunus Abdel Hamad replaced Saiss in game 3 for that one, but Saiss did start games after the Cup. Actually, he started 1 more game in June of 2024, but that would prove to be his last one. Going forward, Abdel Hamid did play alongside Naif Aguerd. But so did Abdel Abkar and Chadi Raid, each of them playing twice. That includes Abdel Hamid's appearance in the Cup. In October 2024, Jamal Harkas became the partner for 4 games in a row, and then he promptly disappeared from the team. In fact, all of them did drift off the team by the end of this period here. In March 2025, Jawad Al-Yamik, who had played a fairly big role in the 2022 World Cup, was recalled after a year and a half absence. Also recalled from a long absence was Adam Messina, a left back, and Messina replaced Aguerd for the June 2025 friendlies. In the fall 2025 games, those 3 players rotated, and in fact Aguerd only got 2 starts, and Al-Yamik and Messina got 3 starts each. So that's what we have kind of going into the Cup here. We'll see if some of those November and December games shed any more light. But right now it looks like a rotation of 3 players, and as I've been saying, not enough central defenders to choose from. Okay, let's go to the left back position here, and we'll start by introducing the candidates. Well, we've removed Adam Messina on the list because he didn't play as a left back during this period. So we have no definite candidates here, but a likely candidate in Youssef Bellamari. And then we have a possible candidate in Mohamed Chibi. He has kind of an interesting history over the period here. And also possible Soufiane El Karouani. Seemingly off the squad, and we'll deal with them as we go. But no, not seemingly off the squad. Possible, but unlikely. Yahya Atiyat Allah. And that's a bit of a surprise, really. He was part of the World Cup 2022 squad and the African Cup 2023 squad, but last appeared for the team. He was not selected for the last 8 matches. So a fairly big game for them, 22 caps for Morocco, but hasn't been called up recently. Next, we have Adam Asnou. Adam Asnou is actually on the roster for Everton in England and Bayern Munich in Germany before that. So very good club affiliations there, but not selected for the last 6 matches there. So that's all we have for candidates over here. We're just going to look at the more likely ones in more detail here, beginning with the likely candidate, Youssef Bellamari. So he has been with Morocco since 2024, but has amassed 15 caps so far. No goals for him. He's 27 years old, so was late in joining the team, and has been playing for clubs in Morocco, Raja Casablanca, since 2023. So he got his first cap in October of 2024 and started 8 of their games there. However, he was on the bench for the last match. We'll see if there's anything to make of that. Next, we have possible candidate Mohamed Chibi. Very interesting story here. He's been with Morocco since 2021, but only has 8 caps and 1 goal, and is 32 years old. Currently playing for Pyramids in Egypt, but played for quite a few Moroccan clubs before that. His first tournament was the 2021 African Cup. He was just a bench player there, didn't see any action. Not selected for the World Cup in 2023, but in 2022. But in the recent African Cup, he started and finished games 1 and 2, but then lost his starting position. Now, we'll see when we get to the summary of the position, that was a very unusual choice. Well, not least of all, and I should have mentioned this because he's coded as a right midfielder there. Anyway, over the period, he did start 2 games in the Cup, but that's not counted here. So besides that, 1 game, just started 1 game, and Didn't even sub into any, so just that one start for him there. The other possible candidate is Sofiane El Karouani, and he's been with Morocco since 2021 with 5 caps and no goals. He's 25 years old, and he plays for Nijmegen in Netherlands and has so for a long time, since 2019. A few smaller Netherlands clubs before that. He was born in the Netherlands, El Karouani, and was part of the team for the 2021 African Cup, where he was on the roster but saw no action. After that, he disappeared from the squad. So it was after a 3-year absence that he came back in September of 2025 and started one of their remaining 4 games there. So Al Karouani coming in from the cold at the end here. So that covers the kind of details on the candidates. Let's look at the summary of the position. So in the Cup, we were very surprised to see right midfielder Mohamed Chibi starting the first 2 games as a left back. As you know, we try to predict who's going to be the starter. Well, he was not even on our list for a starting left back. In fact, he was gone after 2 games, and he would only appear once more for the club up till now, starting as a right back in September of 2025. So anyway, that weird beginning for the position normalized when Yahya Atiat Allah played game 3, and then right back Nusser Mazraoui started game 4. Atia Allah started the March and June 2024 games, but then effectively disappeared from the team there. And in the fall of 2024, 4 different players were in the position over the 6 games. So looks like they've never really been satisfied with the left back position. I know in the past even Akram Hakim, what's his name? His name is eluding me. Ashraf Hakimi has played in the position, but it's been a long time since they've really settled on a player here. And Mazraoui had a couple of more appearances, but then the player that emerged out of the fall 2024 games was Youssef Bellamari, who got his debut in October of 2024, but was firmly in the role other than when he was injured in November. So he started as the left back right up until the game, where the last game when Soufiane El Karouani was recalled from a 3-year absence, and he played the last game. So again, it looked like Bellamari might have been the answer, but just that last game gives us some pause. Okay, so that's the left back position. Again, we won't get to predicting in part 2, and thankfully for that position, we'll have some November and December games to look at. Over to the right back position, and the player whose name I was falling over there, Ashram Hakimi, is a definite candidate over here. And we don't have any candidates at the likely level, but we have Omar Al-Hilali as a possible candidate. You're probably waiting to hear Nusser Mazraoui as a candidate. He's at the possible level too. We'll actually put him ahead of Al-Hilali there. But there's a reason why we have him at the possible level. Finally, we have possible but unlikely Zakaria El-Ouadi. Possible but unlikely, so we'll deal with him right away. Actually new to the team, made his first appearance on the bench in September of 2024, but ultimately wasn't selected for the last 8 games. And furthermore, he has an injury concern, which we'll talk about at the end. So it doesn't look good for El-Ouadi there. Let's go back and look at the main candidates. Actually, real problems in this position, because 3 of them have injury tags hanging over them, including Ashraf Hakimi. So I think they'll be very miserable if they're missing him, but we'll tell you about it in more detail at the end. Otherwise, Hakimi is one of the most important players on the squad, been with Morocco since 2016 with 97 caps and 11 goals, and he's still only 27 years old. So he's maybe their biggest star now. He plays for Paris Saint-Germain in France and was with Inter Milan and Real Madrid before that, and was loaned to Borussia Dortmund. So I don't think you could lie and produce a better resume than that. Hakimi was born in Spain, and his first tournament was the World Cup in 2018. So he's been a starter in all tournaments since then. As I said, he was a left back in the 2018 World Cup. I'm just going to make sure of that. Left back in that and in the 2019 African Cup. So he's become a right back since. Over the period, Hakimi started 14 of their 18 games there. So, of course, a definite candidate. Let's go to the possible candidates, since we have none at the likely level. And here we do meet Noussair Mazraoui, and he has, he moved to Manchester United in England from Bayern Munich last year, so also an impressive resume, which includes Ajax in the Netherlands. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I was gonna say that people will be surprised, given that resume, that he's just a possible candidate here. Mazraoui's been with Morocco since 2018 with 33 caps and 2 goals, and he is 28 years old, and he was born in the Netherlands, and his first tournament was the African Cup in 2019, where he was a substitute. Had a bit of a falling out with the manager for the 2021 African Cup, so didn't play that tournament, but came back for the World Cup in 2022, where he was a starter, but did get injured during the tournament, which injury is part of the narrative for Mazraoui. In the 2023 African Cup, he was not on the bench for the group stage, but then came in and gained a starting position for Game 4. But as you know, they were knocked out in Game 4. He was also the reason he didn't appear in the group stage there also was due to injury. And over the recent period, he has had 3 separate injuries. So that's why we have him as a possible candidate here. There were 8 matches that he was not selected for, and he was out with 3 separate injuries for 4 matches. So ultimately, he's only started 5 of their 18 games over the period. Of course, if he's healthy, they'll definitely use him. But even now, he has an injury tag on him. The current problem is a muscle injury. But we'll update that in the section below. So it would be difficult for them to lose both of those players, and even the possible but unlikely player has an injury tag. The only one who doesn't is our possible candidate, Omar El Hilali. And he's new to Morocco since 2025 with just 1 cap. He's 22 years old, and he was born in Spain, actually on the preliminary roster for the previous cup, despite never having appeared for the team. He got his first appearance on the bench then in March 2025, and didn't start any games, but was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for all 6 others. So a bit of backup for the position there in Omar El Hilal. I don't think I mentioned his club. That is in Spain. He plays for Espanyol in Spain since 2021. Okay, those are the candidates. Let's summarize the position, and this is fairly straightforward. Ashraf Hakimi played all games in the Cup, in the 2024 African Cup in January, and continued to play most of the games through the period. When he was not there, Noussair Mazraoui filled up the role when injuries allowed him to, or when he was fit to. However, sometimes injuries prevented him from doing so. So in the June friendly, Zakaria Al-Ouadi got a start. And in September 2025, Mohamed Chibi, the player returning from being a surprise left back for the first two games of the Cup, played his only game for Morocco over the period, kind of popped up again for a single game and then was gone. So there we have it. They are probably looking for some backup for this position. That's probably why Chibi appeared. Okay, that's it for the right back position, and we move on to the midfield. We begin with defensive midfielders. No, let's begin by talking about the formations a little bit. Again, 44% of the time they use a 4-2-3-1 formation, and 16% of the time, or 3 out of the 18 games, 4-5-1. And I think I said in part one that these were basically the same thing. But if I did say that, it's a mistake, because the 4-2-3-1 is like 2 defensive midfielders and it'll be 1 attacking midfielder, whereas the 4-5-1 is usually a defensive midfielder with 2 central midfielders. One of them could be attacking. So a little bit different there. And there's also a 4-3-3 formation where it basically is central midfielders, although the middle one may be a defensive midfielder. And we're actually going to start with that because they do have basically a defensive midfielder role in a lot of the games. And usually that defensive midfielder is our definite candidate, or sorry, no, just a likely candidate, Sofiane Amrabat. So we'll get back to my usually comment there when we do the summary of the position, but maybe not as often as I thought, because Amrabat only a likely candidate here. We also have as a likely candidate Oussama Targaline. And then we go down to our one possible candidate, Oussama El Azouzi. And then we have 2 possible but unlikely candidates who I'll deal with quickly here. One is Amir Richardson, and he actually was selected for the African Cup in 2023, but didn't appear much over this period. He started 2 games and was not selected for 8 games, including the last 2 matches there. So maybe halfway between possible and possible but unlikely there. And he's actually a central midfielder, but we moved him back here because his games were more as a defensive midfielder. The other possible but unlikely candidate is Anas Bach, and he did not appear much over the period. He was actually in the African National Championship and then brought up to the senior team, to the bench in October of 2025, but really didn't make much of an impact there. So we don't think he'll be part of the squad here. Okay, let's go back to then our three likely candidates, or our 3 more likely candidates. 2 at the likely level. I got the graphics messed up there, so I'm just fixing that up. 2 at the likely level, 1 at the possible level. The first one is Sofiane Amrabat, and he's actually been redesignated as a defensive midfielder. He was coded as a central midfielder in the past, but we see for a while he's been playing more of a defensive role. So me and one of the sources I use have recoded him to a defensive midfielder position. And he's been with Morocco since 2017 with 68 caps and 0 goals. That 0 goals kind of a hint that he's a more defensive player. Sofiane Amrabat is 29 years old and he plays for Fenerbahce in Turkey, or maybe doesn't play for them because he's on loan to Real Betis there. And he's played for a lot of clubs. Fiorentina, he was loaned to Manchester United, Club Brugge in Belgium, and a few teams in the Netherlands too. He was born actually in the Netherlands. And his first tournament appearance was in the 2018 World Cup there. He just appeared as a substitute in one game, actually replacing his brother, his injured brother, in that game, but not selected for the 2019 African Cup. Came back for the 2021 African Cup and has been part of every tournament since. In 2021 African Cup, he was subbed into game one and then gained a starting position. And in the Cup since then, he's been a starter. So a more steady presence on the squad as time goes. Over the recent period, he started 13 of their 18 games. And however, he was not selected for the last match. So that gives us a bit of pause. Maybe I found the expression I was looking for earlier there. That gives us a bit of pause so that we feel we can't say he's a definite candidate because of that. Anyway, let's move on to the other likely candidate. That is Oussama Targaline. He actually has an injury tag hanging over him, and we'll talk about that in the next section. But in section 3. Targaline has been with Morocco since 2024, and he has 7 caps under his name, no goals for the 23-year-old, and he plays for Feyenoord in Netherlands, as Amrabat once did. He's been with Feyenoord since 2025, and was with Le Havre in France before that, but he was born in Morocco. He got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2024. Only started 1 game actually, but subbed in for 6 and was on the bench for 6. So when we say likely, it doesn't really speak to whether he's going to be a starter or not. It's likely though that he will be named to the squad, again, unless that injury comes into play. Our possible candidate, Oussama El Azouzi, has also been struggling with injury over the period. Here he was out with 3 separate injuries for 7 games, but is actually not on the injured list right now, so he seems okay. El Azouzi has been with Morocco since 2023 with 5 caps and no goals, and he's 24 years old, playing for Bologna in Italy since 2023, but recently loaned to Auxerre in France. So he was born in the Netherlands as well, but has played for teams in France, Italy, France, Belgium. But his youth was spent with teams in the Netherlands and his early career there. He was selected, El Azouzi, for the African Cup in 2023, but he was on the bench for all 4 games there. Over the recent period, he started 2 of their games and was not selected for 6 matches, including the last 2. But as I said, 7 of the matches out for injury. There. Okay, that is it for introducing the candidates. Let's summarize the position of defensive midfielders. Sometimes we do defensive and central midfielders at the same time, but we're not going to here because they are quite separable. Okay, so Sofiane Amrabat played in the center of a 4-5-1 midfield in all games of the Cup. Actually, the 4th game was a 4-3-3 formation, but he was in the middle there too. And after that, for 2024, so the first half of the period, Morocco usually used a 4-2-3-1 formation. So that's 2 defensive midfielders. It was central midfielder Azzedine Ounahi joining him there. And when Amrabat was out for 2 games in March and June 2024, Oussama El Azouzi replaced him, although he did drift off the squad over the course of the period. In the last 2 games, newcomer central midfielder Neil El Anawi replaced him. Now, we would have introduced El Azouzi and El Anawi during or as defensive midfielders, but really both of them played about half their time as defensive midfielders and half as central midfielders, and they're coded as central midfielders. So we're going to meet them right away. Oussama Targaline and Amir Richardson both got a start when Amrabat was out for the 2nd game in September 2024. They played side by side there. Richardson, that was his, Targaline, that was his only start. But he actually remained on the squad and was called up regularly and subbed in half of the time. Richardson, on the other hand, did get one start besides that one in September 2024. He had gotten it earlier in March 2024, but basically he was off the squad after his appearance in September 2024. So that's why we have Targaline as a likely candidate and Richardson as possible but unlikely. Okay, so that is the situation in central defence. Basically, Amrabat, the main man there, and he was there for most of 2025. And we move on to central midfielders here, and we begin with the definite candidate in Ismail Saibari. And we have a we have moved. We have the player I've just talked about, Azzedine Ounahi, as a likely candidate here. And also the other one I just mentioned, Neil El Anawi, also as a likely candidate here. Finally, we have Salim Amala. We talked about him in part one, a bit of a veteran, but seemingly off the squad. Not that much of a veteran, just played for Morocco from 2019 to 2024. But he was part of the last three cups, the 2021 and 2023 African Cup and the World Cup, and in fact was a starter in all of those. So a fairly big name for Morocco, even though his tenure was relatively short. He's only 29 years old, so possibly could see him coming back in, but he last appeared in the African Cup in January 2024 and seems to be off the squad. Let's go back and look at the three candidates who are more active in current times, beginning with Ismail Saibari, the definite candidate, and he's been with Morocco since 2023. He has 17 caps and an impressive 5 goals there. The 24-year-old scored 2 goals in 2025 African Cup qualifying and 3 goals in 2026 World Cup qualifying. So quite prolific for a central midfielder there. Saibari was born in Spain, moved to Belgium when he was 7, and he plays for PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands, actually for quite a while, since 2020 there. His early clubs then were in Belgium because, as I said, he did move to Belgium. Okay, so he started 6 of their 18 games over the period. I mean, he was subbed in for 5 besides that. The only time he was out was for 4 games with 2 separate injuries. So we have Saibari as a definite candidate, but not as much of a starter as that definite classification would suggest. Next, we have the likely candidate Azzedine Ounahi, and he's been with Morocco since 2022 with 41 caps and 8 goals. He scored 2 goals in each of the recent qualifying campaigns. So Ounahi is 25 years old and plays for Girona in Spain since 2025. He moved from Marseille in France, where he played for 2 years before that. But when he was with Marseille, he was loaned out to a club in Greece, Panathinaikos, for the last year of that. And yeah, I think he might have been born in Morocco. Again, I should make a note on the ones that are and aren't. Usually if it doesn't say they were born in Morocco, but I'll be clarifying that in my notes here. Ounahi first appeared in the 2021 African Cup. Again, that was in 2022. That's why he got his first cap in 2022. He actually started games 1 and 3 there, and in the World Cup started all 7 games other than Game 3, which was a partial B team game, a starter also in the 2023 African Cup. So over this recent period, he started 11 of their 18 games. The reason we've moved him down to the likely level is because he was absent for the last 2 matches or not selected. So again, always a bit of concern in making our predictions when we see that. The other likely candidate is a newcomer. It's Neil El Ainawi, and he just since 2025 has earned 4 caps. He's 24 years old, and he plays for Roma in Italy since 2025. So that was a move from Lens in France. He was I have Lens B in brackets, which means sometimes he played for the B team there, and Nantes in France prior to that. So he's French-born, El Ainoui, and was new to the squad when he was named to the preliminary squad for the last cup, and wasn't selected, but he got his first cap in September 2025 here, and right at the end started all 4 games in the fall of 2025, so making a big move into the team. We're going to see that actually when players move to big clubs, they're suddenly called up to the national team. So their club affiliations are quite important. Okay, those are the 3 candidates. Let's summarize the position. So Azzedine Ounahi, as we saw, played equally as much as a central midfielder as a defensive midfielder over the period. He and attacking midfield Salim Amala, they were the central midfielders flanking Amrabat in the cup. Well, actually, Salim Amala, an attacking midfielder, but they were both flanking defensive midfielder Amrabat. Ismail Sabari replaced Amala in game 3, but Salim Amala would not appear after the cup, so that is why he seemingly off the squad. Left winger Alice Ben Sagir and attacking midfielder Bilal El Khanous both joined the midfield for several games, especially when it was a 4-3-3 formation. Toward the end, then, Neil El Ainawi joined, and both as a defensive midfielder and as a central midfielder there. So exciting things. And he's one of several kind of new players from top clubs coming in over the period. So I'm excited to do the attacking end of the field here because we have a few interesting new names. That does complete our business in the defensive end of the field. Now we move up to the attacking end of the field, beginning with attacking midfielders. So we're going to start with the left attacking position. And that could be a winger in a 4-4-2 formation, an attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation, or a left forward in a 4-3-3 formation. We're kind of covering the left upper quadrant of the field with this position. And in it, we have the player we just mentioned, Elias Ben Sagir, as a definite candidate. And we have also Abdi Ezalzouli as a definite candidate there too. No candidates at the likely level, but we have Amin Adli at the possible level. We're going to mention Soufiane Rahimi because he's actually coded as a left winger here. We're going to see that he also plays on the right attacking midfield, but we're going to actually cover him as a forward because that's where he had played. That's where he played most of his games over the period. But keep in mind the name Soufiane Rahimi because his name will pop up on the left and right attacking side as well. Okay, next we have Osame Sarawi as a possible candidate. And then we have the departing veteran Sofiane Boufal seemingly off the squad. So we mentioned him in part 1. I'll just quickly cover him here. 46 caps for the national team since 2016 and was part of tournaments since the 2019 African Cup. And played in all the cups since. So he was a sub in the 2019 edition, but a starter in all the, in the 2021 African Cup and in the World Cup too. Started all 7 games there, but then just a sub in the 2023 African Cup, and that was his last appearance for the team there. So Sofiane Boufal. Just 20, sorry, he's 32 years old and still playing club soccer, but off the team. Tarek Tissoudali also seemingly off the squad. He was part of the 2021 and 2023 African Cups, but injured for the World Cup in 2022 and last appeared in the African Cup in January 2024. Not as big a player as Soufiane Boufal because he only had 14 caps for the team. So Tarek Tissoudali kind of came and went quickly as far as things go. And let's go back and look at our four more likely candidates, beginning with Elias Ben Sagir, the definite candidate. He joined in 2024 and has 13 caps and 3 goals, just 20 years old. He too scored in both of the recent qualifications for this cup and for the World Cup. Scored 3 goals over those campaigns. And I mentioned about club affiliations. Well, this is why he comes in so quickly, because he's playing for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany since 2025 and was with Monaco prior to that for 3 years. So Ben Sagir was born in France, actually played for their underage teams, and got his first cap right after the last African Cup in March 2024 and went on to start 2/3 of their games there, only 3 matches that he was not selected for. So we actually see him all over the field. We saw him actually kind of as a right central midfielder there, but he's coded as a left winger, so a left attacker over here, and did play some games here, as we'll see. Our next candidate, also at the definite level, Abdi Ezalzouli. So he is 24 years old and been with Morocco since 2022 with 25 caps and 2 goals. He was with Barcelona, kind of a well-known story about Spain and Spain and Morocco fighting over Ezalzouli. He joined Morocco. Since a couple of years with Barcelona, he was loaned out to clubs in Spain and eventually joined one, Real Betis, since 2023. So he was selected for the World Cup in 2022. He subbed into 3 games there and was a starter for some of the games in the recent African Cup there. And over the period started 8 of their 18 games, so a little less than half there. But he was injured for 4 matches, Ezalzouli. Right, so let's move on to the first of the 2 possible candidates. So Amin Adli has been with Morocco since 2023 with 17 caps and 1 goals. Also quite young, 25 years old, and playing for Bournemouth in England since 2025. He actually left Bayer Leverkusen. He played with them for 4 years before that, and then for clubs in France. He was born in France and also played for their underage teams. Amin Adli's first tournament was the 2023 African Cup, where he subbed into 3 of the games and then went on to start game 4. And over the recent period, though, Adli has only started 1 of their 18 games. However, he was subbed in for 7 and on the bench for 5. So ultimately, just 3 matches he was not selected for. So a possible candidate here. And Osame Saroui is the other one, because we're going to deal with Soufiane Rahimi a bit later. Osame Sarawi, sorry, is probably how we say his name. Sarawi started with Morocco since 2024. He has 2 caps now, 24 years old. Interestingly, he was born in Norway and has played a game for the Norway national team. He played 1 game in 2023, but that didn't bind him to Norway, and he has joined to Morocco now. I think he is bound to Morocco because he's played in a qualification game. Sahraoui plays for Lille in France since 2024 and was with a team in the Netherlands prior to that. He got his first appearance on the bench in October of 2024 and started one game there. However, he was not selected for the last 4 matches, so that is why we have him at the possible level. Okay, so let's look at the story of the left attacking position over the recent time. So in the Cup, Abdi Ezalzouli played games 1 and 4, and Soufiane Boufal played games 2 and 3. That would prove the last game for Boufal, though. Elias Ben Sagir got his first cap right after the Cup in March 2024 and immediately took over the position, playing all games in March and June of 2024. However, Ben Sagir was missing for the first 2 games in September, and Abdi Ezalzouli came back into the position. When he returned in October, Ben Sagir moved to the right side. We saw him playing as a central midfielder on the right, or else as an attacking midfielder. We're going to see him there. So Ezalzouli retained the position even though Ben Sagir was back, at least until he got injured for the June and September 2025 games. Ezalzouli would return for the last 2 games there, but during the transition, Amin Adli, Soufiane Rahimi, and Osami Sahraoui each got 1 start. Adli remains on the team as a sub. He's not really starting. Rahimi is moved to other positions, and he's gotten more starts in other positions, while Sahraoui, who was new in 2024, was not called up in the fall of 2025. So it looks like a battle between 2 strong players there, Ben Sagir and Abdi Ezalzouli, and it seems like they prefer Ben Sagir a little bit. At least he gets on the pitch a bit more, but they will use him in different positions as well. Okay, that is the left side. Let's move over to right attackers. I think I put the left attackers in the wrong place, so I'm just going to fix that up here. But while I do that, I can tell you that we have a definite right attacker in Brahim Diaz, another of the kind of exciting new players. And he's a definite candidate. And then we have a likely candidate in Ilias Akomac, or Akomac. Not much of a starter, Akomac, but we'll tell you why he's likely. Again, I want to mention Soufiane Rahimi over here, but we're going to bounce him forward to, or bounce him to the forward position before we actually introduce him. But he does play some games over here, so we want to just remind you that you'll hear his name there. At the possible level, we have Chemseddine Talbi. And then seemingly off the squad, Zachariah Abaklau. I'll just cover him quickly then. He does have an injury hanging over him, as well as being a possible but unlikely candidate. He was a starter at the beginning of the 2021 African Cup, and also was part of the World Cup 2022 squad where he subbed in, but injury prevented him from the last African Cup, and his last appearance for the team was in November of 2024. So there is room for him to come back. He's just 25 years old, but for now, Abouklal seems to be an unlikely candidate. And then what will come as a surprise to many is Hakim Ziyech, seemingly off the squad here. And again, club affiliations come into it, because just as if you reach an elite team, you'll probably be called up to the squad. If you decline from elite teams, you may be off the squad. So Hakim Ziyech, currently with Wydad Casablanca in Morocco. So it's been kind of a decline from Chelsea to Galatasaray to Al Duhai in Qatar, and now playing in Morocco. Even though he was born in the Netherlands and doesn't speak fluently, he is playing in Morocco. I don't need to go through his career. He's been a pretty big name for Morocco ever since the 2018 World Cup. He's also famous for his disagreement with the previous manager that forced him to, or that kept him out of the 2021 African Cup. But under the new manager, he came back for the World Cup in 2022 and for the last African Cup. So I was looking into whether there had been some disagreement with this manager, but in the summary, I'll tell you what's going on there. Anyway, long and short of it is Hakim Ziyech last appeared for the team in November of 2024, so it's seemingly off the team. He is 32 years old now, so he is aging out a little bit, but Hakim Ziyech, a big name there, that some may be surprised to see him off the squad. Okay, let's look at the candidates here. We'll go back to the definite candidate, Brahim Diaz, and he's actually coded as an attacking midfielder, but we've moved him over to the right side here because this is where he played the most. Diaz has been with Morocco since 2024 with 12 caps, and he scored 8 goals over those 12 caps. He's 26 years old, a little late in joining the team because he was part of the Spain team in 2021 and 2022. Must have been one of those years because he only got 1 cap there, but he did get 1 goal for them as well. And he's with Real Madrid in Spain ever since 2019. He was loaned out to AC Milan for a few years there, 2020 to 2023, and but prior to Real Madrid, he was with Manchester City in Spain. So again, a very high quality resume there. He was on the. No, he was not on the preliminary squad for the World Cup, but he was, yeah, I guess he was considering between joining Spain or Morocco. I'm guessing, like Ezal Zuli there was eligible to play for both. Anyway, he got his first cap for Morocco in March of 2024 and started 10 of their 18 games. The 4 of the games he missed were due to injury. So he's immediately become a very important player. He scored 7 of their 16 goals in qualifying for this cup. And for the World Cup, just 1 of their 22 goals there. Anyway, Brahim Diaz, a definite candidate. Next, we have the likely Ilyas Akomak. And he's been with Morocco since 2024, so also a newcomer, with 8 caps, and he's 21 years old. He plays for Villarreal in Spain since 2023. So these new players have pretty good club affiliations there. Akomak came up through the Barcelona system in Spain, and he was named to the African Cup in 2023. That's I was mixing up Diaz and Akomak there. Akomak was named but didn't make the final cut, but he got his first cap immediately after in March of 2024. He only started 1 game though. He was subbed in for 7 games and on the bench for 3. He was injured for 6 games, and then so it was just 1 match that he was not called up for, and that's why we have him as a likely candidate. But that doesn't suggest anything about him being a starter. So Ilyas Akomak, a likely candidate. And the possible candidate is Chemsadine Talbi. He's brand new to the squad since 2025 with 2 caps and no goals. He is just 20 years old and has recently joined Sunderland in England, who were promoted to the Premier League since 2025 and played for Club Brugge in Belgium before that. He was born in Belgium, was Chemsedine Talbi. So for Morocco, he got his first cap in September of 2025. Didn't start any games, but was subbed in for two and on the bench for two. So a bit of an up-and-coming player. Wow, they have some good youth coming in here, Morocco. Even though they were a strong team, they're strengthening even further. Let's summarize the position of right attacker. So Hakim Ziyech played the first two games of the Cup. That might have been the first three games of the Cup, while left attacking midfielder Amin Adli played the fourth. And Ziyech remained in the position until June of 2024. Then he played a couple of games in other roles and was suddenly off the team after September 2025. September 2024. So we did mention he had political problems with the previous manager. He had actually quit the team in 2024. That might have been quit the team in 2021. He did quit the team under the previous manager, but the new manager, Regragui, persuaded him to come back. The manager insists that the reason he's not being called up is due to a lack of play with his club. So the issue is Ziyech's match fitness or match readiness. Regardless, attacking midfielder Brahim Diaz, new to the team in March, took over the position here as right attacking midfielder for the most part. Other players, and mostly out-of-position players, seem to have been tried out over the period, including Soufiane Rahimi, who got 3 starts there, and then 3 players each starting one time. But the position did seem to settle on Diaz because he started 3 of the last 4 matches in the position. So Brahim Diaz, if he's not starting over here, he'll be starting somewhere else. But they do seem to have settled on him here. Let's go to the next position, the attacking midfield position. And I'll just say they do actually use it, especially in 2024, quite a bit. It's a 4-2-3-1 formation, so that has an attacking midfielder. And sometimes a 4-3-3 formation, the 4-5-1 or the 4-4-2 formation, anyway, is a diamond shape. So it has a defensive and an attacking midfielder and then 2 central midfielders. So this position is used quite a bit more than other teams. And so we are going to see some strong candidates here. The first one is definite candidate Bilal El Khanous. And we also have, we had Salim Amala here, but we moved him back to central defense. I'll also say that Brahim Diaz is coded as an attacking midfielder and did play a few games in this position too, as we'll see soon. However, as far as candidates to introduce go, we only have Bilal El Khanous, and then seemingly off the squad, Amin Harit. He seemed to be making good inroads for a while, Amin Harit, but he was part of the World Cup squad in 2018, was off the squad for a while, selected for the final squad for the World Cup 2022, and but was injured and replaced, and then just a sub in the 2023 African Cup. So he's been around, but that African Cup in January of 2024 was Amin Harit's last appearance. But he is only 28 years old, and he does play for Marseille in France, even if he is out on loan right now. So again, I wouldn't be surprised to see him and a couple of other players we've said who are seemingly off the squad. I wouldn't be surprised to see them coming back in. In fact, we have seen several players on the squad who were out in the cold and then came back in to play a big role. So seems to be something Morocco does. Okay, let's look at Bilal Al Khanous then. He's been on the team since 2022 with 25 caps and 1 goal. He's only 21 years old. He plays for Leicester in England since 2024, but actually is out on loan right now to Stuttgart in Germany. Since 2025. Prior to that, he played for Genk in Belgium. He was born in Belgium, and so his youth club was with, or his youth was with clubs in Belgium. He was selected for the 2022 World Cup. Appeared only in Game 7 there in the third, fourth place game. They fielded a bit of a partial B team game there, so he appeared as a sub. No, he started that and was subbed out at 56 minutes. El Khanous then was also selected for the African Cup in 2023, but again, a substitute in that cup. He got one of their goals in World Cup qualifying here. He got a late winning goal against Niger there. And during this period, Bilal El Khanous has started 5 of their 18 games, but subbed in for 9. And was on the bench for 4 others. So a definite candidate in terms of selection. Not much of a starter, more of a substitute is El Khanous. Okay, and he's the only candidate, so we'll go to the summary of the position. This position was not used in the Cup, but then was used quite a bit in 2024. Brahim Diaz, who was new in March, started out in the position and played it for 3 games before moving to the right attacking midfield position. Hakim Ziyech played his last 2 games or his last 2 starts in this position before he disappeared. And then central midfielder Azzedine Ounahi and left attacking midfielder Ben Seguir each played twice in the fall of 2024. After that, the formation changed and the position was not used. But I should say that El Khanous's start were in kind of an attacking midfield role, but actually playing in the central midfield rather than in this position itself. So if I were to do it all over again, which I'm not going to do, I would put El Khanous there back in the central midfield. Okay, let's move on to the forwards then, our last category, because we have no one coded as a secondary striker. So we go to the outright forwards, and we have Ayoub El Kabi as a definite candidate. And we also have definite candidate Youssef El Nesri there. Likely candidate, we have a newcomer, Hamza Igamain. And then here's where we'll finally introduce Soufiane Rahimi. He's a possible candidate here. And that's all we have over here. So no one at the lower levels or more unlikely levels. So we can get straight to introducing these 3 candidates. Ayoub El Kabi has been with Morocco since 2018 with 58 caps and 29 goals, so 50% there, scores in half of his games. He's now 32 years old, and he's played for Olympiacos in Greece since 2023, and clubs in Qatar, Turkey, and China as well, but he also has played for a couple of clubs in Morocco. El Kabi got his tournament start in the World Cup in 2018. He actually started game 1 there, but he lost his starting position there, and in 2019 he didn't make the final cut from the preliminary squad. Was part of the squad for the 2021 and 2023 African Cups there, but not selected for the World Cup in 2022, which was actually a bit of a shock because he had scored 5 of their 25 goals in qualifying. So a bit in and out of the teams in terms of tournaments. In recent campaigns, he scored 1 of their 16 goals in qualifying, and 4 of their 22 goals in World Cup 2026 qualifying. That includes a hat-trick against Congo. So he was the top scorer for the team there, despite being more of a sub than a starter. And that is the story on Ayoub El Kabi. The other definite candidate is Youssef En-Nesyri, and he's been with Morocco since 2016 with 84 caps and 25 goals. He's 28 years old, playing for Fenerbahce in Turkey since 2025, and with Sevilla in Spain for 4 years before that. His first tournament, En-Nesyri, was in the 2017 African Cup, where he subbed in and then gained the starting position. But in the 2018 World Cup, he was selected, but just as a substitute, appeared only in one game there. In 2019, he was a starter, but in 2021, just as a substitute at first, and again kind of gained a starting position in that cup. In the World Cup in 2022 and the recent African Cup, he was a starter. So wow, what a long tournament history he has. And he also scored goals in both of their campaigns recently. 3 goals in the 2025 Cup for this tournament, and 2 goals of their 22 goals in the World Cup qualifying there. He's only started 7 of their 18 games over the period, but he has subbed in for 8, and was on the bench for 3 others. So he's always called up, Youssef En-Nesyri. Okay, the likely candidate is our newcomer, Hamza Igamain. And he's been with the team since 2025. He has 5 caps and 2 goals. 2 goals. He may have more than that because I have him scoring 4 goals in a different note here. So anyway, he is a forward, so he scores goals. We'll maybe try to clarify that if we are able. Hamza Igamain plays for Lille in France since 2025 and was with Rangers in Scotland before that. He got his first cap in March of 2025 and started 2 of the games there and subbed in for 3 besides, and was on the bench for 3 others. So he's been consistently called up since his first cap in March of 2025. And finally, we have our possible candidate, Soufiane Rahimi, who has been with Morocco since 2021, 29 caps and 10 goals for him. He's 29 years old and plays for Al Ain in the UAE since 2021. He was with clubs in Morocco before that. He was part of the African Cup team in 2021, just as a substitute there, but not called up for the 2 tournaments after that. He actually seemed to be off the team for a while, and or perhaps in and out of the team. I don't have an absence for him, but he did miss 2 tournaments there. He started 7 of their 18 games over this period and subbed in for 6. However, he was not selected for the last 4 matches, and that's why we have him here at the possible level. We've seen him starting on the left and on the right, and as a forward too. So he's played a fairly big role, but not in the fall 2025 games. All right, that just leaves us with a summary of the position in section 2 here, and we have Youssef En-Nesyri starting 3 of the games in the cup, and Ayoub El Kabi 1 of them. He started game 3. After the cup, it was truly a rotation of those 2, En-Nesyri and El Kabi, and left winger Soufiane Rahimi was kind of in that rotation in the first part of the period as well. But in 2025, Rahimi dropped out of the rotation, and it was En-Nesyri and El Kabi alternating. However, in October, Hamza Igamain, who had joined the team back in March, and who had 1 start as a right attacking midfielder, also got a start here as a forward. So kind of presented himself as an option at the end here. at the expense of Rahimi, it seems. Okay, that is it for section 2. We finished looking at the forwards and we move on to section 3. And in section 3, we actually welcome new listeners to the mediacast here. We're releasing a short version of it here. In the full version, I'm saying this to the newcomers here, we introduced the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. We also talked about who has been the main player in each position. So those listening to the short version, you can check out the full version for the reasons behind our predictions here and for some career information on the main players. Okay, for those who have listened to it, this is a review summary. And if you're waiting for us to predict the starters, well, I'm sorry, that comes in part 2. So in part 1, we're just looking at the candidates. So we're going to go over the list we compiled in the long version of the podcast. And we begin with manager Walid Regragui. He has been the manager since 2022. For goalkeepers, we have 2 definite candidates, Yassine Bounou and Munir Mohand or Munir Mohammedi, and both of those definite to be selected. No candidates at the likely level, and at the possible level, we're kind of looking for the third string keeper between Mehdi Benabid and El Mehdi Al-Harar. We do have candidates at the possible but unlikely level or seemingly off the squad level, but we won't cover them. You can see them if you're looking at the YouTube page here, but we won't cover them because we want to get through this. For central defenders, there are no definite candidates, but we have 3 likely candidates in Nayef Aguerd, Jawad Al-Yamik, and Adam Messina. And then 1 possible candidate in Abdel Abkar. So it looks like they need more central defenders to choose from there. Over in the left-back position, no one at the definite level, but Youssef Bellamari is a likely candidate, and then 2 possible candidates in Mohamed Chibi and Soufiane El Karawani. For the right-back position, we have a definite candidate in Ashraf Hakimi, but this is a good place to say that several players have injury doubts hanging over them, which we'll be dealing with shortly, including the one of the central defenders that I just mentioned. But for right-backs, it's 3 of them, including Ashraf Hakimi, and the first possible candidate, Nusser Mazraoui. The other possible candidate, Omar El Hilali, is okay, but one of the possible but unlikely candidates also with an injury tag on him. Moving up to the midfield and defensive midfielders, we have likely candidates Sofiane Amrabat and Usama Targalin, and then possible candidate Usama El Azouzi. Central midfielders, a definite candidate, Ismail Sebara, and 2 likely candidates, Azuddin Unahi and Neil El Anawi. That is it for the midfield. We move up to the attacking part of the field. Okay, that's not it for the midfield, but these are attacking midfielders. On the left side, we have Elias Ben Sagir and Abdi Ezalzouli as definite candidates. No candidates at the likely level, but 2 possible candidates in Amin Adli and Osame Sarawi. Over to the right side, we have a definite candidate in Brahim Diaz and a likely candidate in Ilyas Akomach, and then possible candidate Shamsuddin Albi. And there in the middle, central attackers, Bilal El Khanous as a definite candidate. Finally, the forward line, we have 2 definite forwards in Ayub El Kabi and Yusuf En Nesri, and then a likely candidate in newcomer Hamza Igamin, and a possible candidate in Soufiane Rahimi. So those are the candidates we're looking at. We have a lot of injuries to talk about here, which is why I was kind of rushing through that section. So let's take a look at them. And we're going in order of position here. So our first one is Jawad El-Yamik. He's a central defender. And Let's look at his situation here. Let me just find him first. Okay, there we go. He is out with abductor pain. I believe that's the upper thigh there. Abductor pain is all it says since mid-October. So he got injured after the international games there in October, and the word on him is unknown return date. So we'll put him in the we'll put him in the unknown category, and let's move on to the to the next one. I completely lost my place in my script here. Just give me a sec. I'm all over the place here. Okay, unknown is the situation for Jawad El Ami. Let's go to the next one. Ashraf Dari is actually a possible but unlikely candidate, a central defender, and both because he is actually not possible but unlikely, he is seemingly off the squad. And in addition to that, has the injury hanging over him, so his chances of reaching the cup are quite bleak. He was injured for reasons unknown, or we don't know what the injury is, since September 2025. He also has an unknown return date, but we're going to put him in the out of contention category there because he looks very doubtful. Quite the opposite is true of our next one, Ashraf Hakimi, the right back. He was a definite candidate, and he was listed as out with an ankle sprain since early November. So that too is after the last set of international games. Although ankle sprain doesn't sound so bad, it must be serious enough because he's not expected back until December 24th of this year. The tournament begins on December 21st. So that's going to be a close call. We'll put him in the close call category. Next, we have Noussair Mazraoui, and he's been struggling with issues over most of the period. He had a heart problem in October of 2024, was not available during the summer and early part of the year for Manchester United due to a knock, and now he has a muscle injury in September and October. However, he does seem to have recovered it because he has played a game for Manchester United since. So we are going to say recovered from injury for Noussair Mazraoui, and hope he doesn't get another injury because he's been troubled with them. Next, we have the right back, Zakaria El Ouadi, and he was a possible but unlikely candidate as well. He was out with a shoulder injury from early October, so he did miss the October internationals, and he has an unknown return date, so we'll put him in the unknown category, but again was not a likely candidate anyway. Next we have defensive midfielder Oussama Targaline, and he was out with a recent head injury since early November, but he's expected back in mid-November. So that doesn't sound serious and doesn't look like it'll prevent his chances. He's a likely candidate. Not much of a starter, but to be named to the squad. Finally, we have Zakari Abouklal. Zakari Abouklal is a right winger. He's possible but unlikely based on his participation. He's been struggling with a thigh problem since mid-October, but he is expected to be recovered by mid-November. So perhaps the injury won't get in the way of his chances, but his non-selections seem like they will. Okay, that is it. That's a pretty long injury section. We'll update it in section 2. A couple of closing thoughts on Morocco. One is they're playing in the Arab Cup in early December. How will that affect things? Also, they have some really exciting new attackers. So if they were a strong team, they seem to be stronger with them, despite losing a couple of big names like Roman Saiz and Hakim Ziyech. But it'll be interesting to see how they look with some of these new attackers. Okay, let's preview part 2. We're going to summarize, when we get to part 2, we'll have the preliminary and final squad. So we'll be able to go through our list and tell you which ones made it and which ones didn't. And that will include any notable non-selections, any surprise inclusions, and any new players. We'll kind of highlight things there. We have a lot to update on injuries, but what some people look forward to in part two is our prediction of the starters. So we'll have a couple of more games that Morocco are playing to help us along with that, and we hope you join us for it. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak,